I'd like to convene the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board here on Wednesday, February 7th. If our secretary would please call the roll.
Commissioner Alper.
Present.
Commissioner Menz.
Here.
Commissioner Musich.
Present.
Commissioner
Present.
Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Rucker.
Present.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Vice President DeBenny.
Here.
President Forney.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Action carries. Okay, on to the approval of our agenda.
I'd like to move the agenda for approval. Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. On to the approval of minutes from January 2nd.
I'll move the minutes from January 2nd, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. On to the approval of minutes of January 17th, 2024.
I'll move the minutes of January 17th.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries also. Okay, we'll now have reports of appointees of outside boards, commissions, and committees. Anybody have anything they'd like to share? Vice President Abene.
Thank you, President Forney. There was one meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation, the BET, on January 24th. During the meeting, we received and filed the third quarter 2023 financial status report. It had been delayed. It was supposed to happen in the previous, at a previous meeting, but we had a quorum problem in December. We also reallocated 2023 bond proceeds to eligible projects. So these were bonded dollars or dollars from bonding that were extra, and then they can be reallocated, and this seems to be something that occurs in the spring. I'll also just point out, it was interesting in that presentation to learn about the city's general fund. They're not as reliant on the general fund as we are here at the Park Board. We're at about nearly 80% of our budget, and I think they're about 50%. But we've talked here about our 5% cushion that we keep, and the city's is 17%, which I found to be really interesting. And then the last note here is the next BET meeting is scheduled for February 14th.
Thank you. Commissioner Menz.
Yes, I serve on the Minneapolis Tree Advisory Committee, and thanks to the action of this board, we have started a subcommittee on the communication procedures around emerald ash borer. Carol Sursland has sort of led the charge with getting a subcommittee started, and we did meet with staff, and I really want to commend staff for giving some background information, bringing all of the communication leaflets and communication materials to the meeting. And so Carol and I also hosted a subcommittee meeting following our meeting with staff, and it looks like that work is going to continue, and hopefully in 2, 3, 4 months they'll have some recommendations around the communication around emerald ash borer and how that happens once the condemnation starts. So really, really fascinating feedback from some of the community members. It looks like there's going to be some authentic communication in that space, and staff is going to be attending those meetings in some form or fashion as well. But we're going to try and limit staff to the subcommittee for 1 or 2 people, and hopefully the small group of the community folks in the MTAC will bring some recommendations that help the process become more clear for citizens and that constituents can know what to expect, and for us as a park board to also be able to figure out how we control that process a little bit better from the start so that we can create places where citizens understand what's happening, understand how the process is going to occur, and feel validated in their ability to feedback. So really encouraged by that, and the MTAC meets as a board, as an advisory commission this week, and we're also going to have our one final subcommittee meeting. So that work is really moving, and if you're interested in learning more, please reach out.
Thank you for that update. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you so much, President Forney. I got to go to my first meeting of the Planning Commission And it was pretty short. It was like ships passing because some people are leaving. But there was one interesting thing that I got to immediately vote on that it was for us, which was the, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, Mr. Peterson probably knows better, it was for our connection, the 26th Avenue Overlook, to be able to get our variance, or I'm trying to get up the right lingo, into Ole Olson. So I was like, well, right out of the gate, go park board. So anyway, just thought I'd give you a little update.
Thank you for that enthusiastic report. I would like to then also appoint Commissioner Elper to the PAC, which is, sorry, I can't remember what,
Policy Advisory Committee.
Okay, for the Ramsey, what is it called? Excuse me.
Riverview Corridor.
The Riverview Corridor, it's coming out, okay, slowly here, anyway, as the alternate to that particular committee. So I appreciate her willingness to step up for that. Okay, now on to our consent agenda, and first of all, I want to remind people that we do have a 9:45 public hearing, but as far as the consent agenda, is there anything that people would like to pull for discussion? Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes, I would like to pull Resolution 2024-24 for an oral reading.
Great. Would somebody like to pass then the remainder of the agenda?
I would like to move the remainder of the consent agenda for.
Point of order, I have my light on too. I have a
Oh, I
couple of things.
apologize. Excuse
Yep.
me.
I wanted to pull 2024-17.
7, okay. All right. Okay, with 2 agenda items being pulled, the consent agenda, go ahead.
I already made the motion. We need a second.
Oh, okay, it's a second to the consent agenda, anybody?
Second.
Thank you, okay. All right, as far as the consent agenda, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. Okay, which agenda item should we go to first? It's okay with you. I'm gonna go to agenda 2024-24.
Yeah.
Yes, let me read Resolution 2024-24. This is a resolution honoring Councilmember Lisa Goodman for 26 years of service to the citizens of Minneapolis. Whereas Lisa Goodman was elected to represent the 7th Ward on the Minneapolis City Council in 1997 and served in that office until January 1st, 2024. Whereas Lisa Goodman, her 26 years of continuous service on the Minneapolis City Council is the longest service of any person in the history of the city of Minneapolis. Whereas Lisa Goodman was a leader in community and economic development in the city of Minneapolis and a strong and vigorous representative of the 7th Ward projects, which included at various times Cedar Lake, Lake of the Isles, Bede-Makaska, Kenwood Park, Loring Park, Parade Stadium, Bryn Mawr Meadows, Theodore Worth Lake and Park, and Mississippi River and Riverfront. Whereas Lisa Goodman was the original advocate and spokesperson for creating dog parks in, around, and throughout the city of Minneapolis, and herself established at least 2 dog parks. Whereas Lisa Goodman was also a champion of the Minneapolis park system, advocating as the lead co-author of the concurrent City Council and Park Board 20-year Neighborhood Park Program, NPP 20, which established a 20-year program to revitalize neighborhood parks throughout the city of Minneapolis. Lisa Goodman was also a strong proponent of the park dedication fees and the concurrent City of Minneapolis and Minneapolis Park Board's dedication fee ordinance, which provided dedicated park fees for new developments of park amenities in the city to meet the needs of a growing population and to provide park and rec amenities such as parks, trails, natural spaces, new enhancements to attract and retain property owners in the city of Minneapolis. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board recognizes and honors Lisa Goodman's 26 years of service to the citizens of Minneapolis. Be it further resolved, the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board wishes Lisa Goodman every future success and hope that she continues to provide her dynamic energy, keen mind, friendly demeanor, and keen expressions for the benefit of the city and of our parks. Be it further resolved, the superintendent and the secretary of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board enroll this resolution and take any such further actions to recognize former council member Lisa Goodman. Thank you, Lisa. We love you.
We have a second.
I will second that motion.
It has been duly seconded. Any discussion on them? Well, I personally would like to ask if Lisa, if you would share some of your energy and if you had any words you would like to share with us. I want to know what your future is going to be because we know you're not going to lay low.
Madam President, members of the board, our wonderful superintendent, Brian and Jennifer, and all of the wonderful staff who I've had the good fortune to work with for many of these years. I'll remind you that I've worked with, I think, 5 superintendents, at least 6 board chairs, and more than 50 commissioners on this board. And I started out thinking maybe there shouldn't be a separate park board. And I ended up thinking, thank goodness there is a separate park board. So I think that the thing I want to leave you with is that cities only do well if they have good schools, public safety, and access to parks. That's what makes people choose to live in this city. Good schools, access to public safety, and wonderful parks and park amenities. And if we didn't have an independent board and a group of staff members working on a daily basis to ensure that the park system was strong, we would be like many other cities that don't value the kind of recreation and environmental stewardship that we value here. So I'm just really grateful for the work that you do. I remember when this building was built, like it was yesterday, and I have worked on park issues. To be fair, because I've been quite impressed with Mr. Rice and his persuasion that I should get involved at the city's end. And, not a lot of city council members want to help do work for other boards and commissions, but I kind of see it as a holistic thing. So everyone's asking me what I'm going to do. I've been back from Thailand for 1 week and 2 days, and I am somewhat bored, I'll be honest. I got Netflix. That's something I'd never had before. So that's been kind of fun. And my grown son, who's 28, and his wife are living with me with their little dachshund dog and my big English sheepdog. And just today, I walked through Worth Park with my dog because I live in the Bryn Mawr neighborhood, being happy, although unhappy about the mud, kind of wishing it was a bit colder. And I have an Airbnb guest staying with me who is coming here from Alaska to participate in the ski race that's happening next weekend. So don't let anyone tell you that this kind of recreation doesn't bring energy and money into the city. I personally am benefiting from it, and I will make it my business to entertain these good folks from Alaska and make sure if they can't do all of the things that they want to do as it pertains to skiing, that they get to do all of the things that we would like to show them to do as it pertains to walking and hiking around beautiful Theodore Worth Park, which is right in my backyard. So thank you. It's really nice of you to honor me this way. I had no idea this was even a thing until Meg mentioned it to me over the weekend when Jane was in town. And I just hope that some of you will call on me. I would love to help you, for example, on getting you oriented to the Planning Commission. And I love your enthusiasm, and it's really important to have a park commissioner thinking about things like this on the Planning Commission. So I'm available as a volunteer if anyone wants to reach out, and if not, that's okay too. I will be a happy and content citizen and look forward to your wonderful leadership, especially my dear friend Elizabeth Schaefer and my very old dear friend Meg Forney. Thank you so much.
An energy that will be a huge void to fill. Anyway, thank you, Lisa, for all of your efforts. Sorry. Okay, we were pulling another. Oh, yes, we have to vote on this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. Hallelujah. Okay, then we're on to resolution
move
20.
Resolution 2024-17.
Right, exactly, thank you. Being pulled for discussion. Do you want a presentation or you want?
I'll read it.
Okay,
Resolution
thank you.
accepting a 2022 grant award from the Hennepin Youth Sports Program in the amount of $300,000 for facility renovation construction for the Minneapolis American Indian Center and authorizing the superintendent to sign the grant agreement.
Second?
Yes, Commissioner.
I pulled this because it looks like it relates to another item that's on the consent agenda, and I was kind of wondering if anybody on staff had some information around this particular grant and how we select the programs that are going to receive the $300,000. And I think this is a consistent arrangement with the Hennepin County Youth Sports Group. So kind of just to start there.
Sure. President Forney, Commissioner Menz, a number of years ago, the Hennepin County Board and the City of Minneapolis asked us to Park Board to be passed through, to apply for permits and pass through the funding that we would receive for any nonprofits within the City of Minneapolis. Since this grant program began in 2009, there have been 3 times that we've applied on behalf of another group and received grants. The first one was Urban Ventures for artificial turf soccer field, and then the second one was Dynamite's refrigerated rink that was done a couple of years ago, and then the Minneapolis American Indian Center. That's the 3rd time. So again, we take their grant application and we submit it for them. If there is an award, then we have to, like the next item here that you've approved is the purchasing of, in this case, their improvements for that building. And then we will pay for that, and then we'll seek reimbursement from Hennepin County for that full value.
Does this, and this is our annual request from Hennepin County, like just because it's going through another organization and we're the pass-through, is it still only one time per year that we do this?
President Forney, Commissioner Menz, correct. This application for this application was approved by the board in 2021. We received the funding on behalf of them, or we were notified that we would receive that grant. And then we had to work through a number of details with what they were going to purchase, how they were going to purchase that, and then and we did not want to authorize the grant, asking the superintendent to sign it until we knew exactly what they were going to buy and how that was going to work. So yes, it's part of those once-a-year applications that we make. But again, this one was done in 2021. The previous one was 2019, and the original one in Urban Ventures was probably 2013 or 2014.
And how do we go about determining groups that are eligible for this service? Or
President Forney, Commissioner Menz, we do not make that determination. They are nonprofits that come forward to us, and then we would apply on their behalf. We've also applied on behalf of the Fred Wells Tennis Center, probably either it was 2021 or 2020, and they were not successful in receiving grant funds. So not every organization that we've applied for on the behalf of them did they receive grant funds.
okay, thank you. And is there any this doesn't negatively impact our relationship with Hennepin County Youth Sports Association, or, I mean, do they know what to predict from us? This seems like an annual $300,000 that we receive from Hennepin County Youth Sports Association. It's a consistent amount. Are we planning for that in the future, and do we have future projects that we're thinking of identifying for that, or is there a process for that?
President Forney, Commissioner Menz, yes. So this summer, this fall, we'll bring forward a list for the board to consider an application for facility grants. We have an arrangement that we coordinate those efforts with Minneapolis Public Schools. So again, there are 3 Hennepin County Commissioner districts that overlap within Minneapolis, and between the public schools and the park board, we try not to apply in the same commissioner district. But yes, we'll bring forward a list for you to consider. We, again, as I've said before, we try to align those with capital dollars so we have a match. And we've been successful since 2009. Over the years, we've been quite successful with this grant. It's just, this is a pass-through. It's a little bit difficult. And in this case, there is no programming that we'll receive. So the board is doing this out of our goodwill and staff time to execute the grant, procure the products, inspect them in place, and then seek reimbursement for the grant funds.
And if I'm correct, this would not probably be possible if there wasn't a pass-through for this organization?
President Forney, Commissioner Menz, you are correct. They would not have been able to apply for those Hennepin Youth Sport Program grants.
Okay, thank you very much.
See no other further lights? All those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. On then to the Planning Committee. Vice President or Chair?
Yep.
Benne.
On behalf of the Planning Committee, I'd like to move Resolution 2024-5, resolution directing staff of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board to pursue methods of establishing site control through the State of Minnesota Department of Transportation, allowing for the continued operation and maintenance of Overlook Gardens, which is situated within the right-of-way of Interstate 94 of the State of Minnesota, and allowing a naming process honoring Robert Scafty to be initiated once site control is established.
A second?
Second?
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes, I'd like to move the staff amendment for this resolution. Basically, we all had seen the red lines, but it is just a correction to include policy support from the Southwest Service Area Master Plan, indicating that actually the Stevens Square neighborhood has, as a whole, is a park search zone and a potential for the Overlook Gardens to address.
Second?
Any discussion on that? Not seeing, I think, any lights for discussion? Thank you. All right, all those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carried. Yes, Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes, and then I'd just like to move one amendment that I added that includes some edits, which you have read in your packet, basically correcting a few dates around Robert's service and giving some more detail about how the Overlook Gardens is actually utilized within the community.
Second?
Great. Not seeing any further lights. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. So on to the amended resolution. Any discussion on that? Not seeing any lights. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. Okay, so we then are on to, get my glasses here. Okay, we are on to the resolution approving the draft 2024 MPRB State Legislative Agenda.
Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee.
Thank you. Is it? Oh, thank you. It's on the,
It's on the other page.
thank you. I missed that. Okay. Legislative and Governmental Committee. Oh, Tom. Okay. Commissioner Olson.
All right, I would like to move resolution, oh gosh, why? Sorry,
Oh, there it is.
2023-237, resolution approving the draft 2024 MPRB State Legislative Agenda.
Second?
Right. Yes, Commissioner Elper.
Yeah, I would like to, if it's okay, appropriate now, I would like to move an amendment to our legislative agenda, state legislative agenda, which reads, MPRB supports legislation to address the epidemic of wire theft from public lighting systems along parkways and within parks. And
Point of clarification, could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yes, it's in your packet too.
Yep.
It's MPRB supports legislation to address the epidemic of wire theft
Okay.
from public lighting systems along parkways and within parks.
Okay, second.
Discussion?
Sure, I'd just like to speak to it, to say that this is something that I've heard consistently from the public. Saw head nods when about putting this together, so that's where this comes from. And as you can see, it's been, I believe that it's been put together by our intergovernmental relations administrator, and I believe that other peers are considering similar language.
Vice President Abeni.
Just a quick thing, and sorry I asked you to repeat that, but I thought I heard something different at the end, but I had read that, and actually I wanted to say thank you to Commissioner Elper for thinking about that. This is a terrible problem we're experiencing, and so if we can all sort of row in the same direction on this, that'd be great.
Agree. Okay, not seeing any other lights. All those in favor of the amendment to the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. Okay, any discussion on the amended resolution? Not seeing any lights. All those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carried. On to our next resolution.
All right, I would like to move Resolution 2023-238, resolution adopting the 2024 MPRV draft federal legislative agenda.
Second?
Any discussion? Not seeing any lights. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. Under standards and conduct.
On behalf of the Standards and Conduct Committee, I'd like to move Resolution 2024-3, a resolution advising the Minneapolis City Charter Commission that the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board opposes the creation of a new department under the city charter regarding ethical practices.
Second.
Great. Any discussion on that item? Any discussion? Any report? Okay, Vice President Abeni.
Yeah. So actually, there was a charter commission meeting, and I can also call upon Council Rice to speak to this. He attended, I attended, and also Pamela Gokemeyer attended. And they were hearing discussion. They had invited discussion on all Article 10 changes, and this is one of many changes in there. And on the whole, some things that were encouraging, we articulated that we were concerned about anything in charter that would subordinate us to the city, have our processes be under a city department's overview, like the city attorney and things like that. And one of the things that was encouraging is that there seemed to be a sentiment on the Charter Commission that things that come, edits or modifications or changes to the charter should be in deliberation for a long period of time. And these changes and the other changes in Section 10 or Article 10, there were a lot, and they really weren't well vetted. So the decision was made to table these essentially until next year. So nothing could be on anybody's ballot this coming year. Council Rice, could you add to that, or?
If I may, Madam Chair, just quickly, yes, Commissioner Benny did an excellent job representing the board's position. It was well received. I think the general consensus from the Charter Commission was this proposed new Article 10, which was far afield from the strong mayor changes that they were supposed to deal with. The Charter Commission really shelved all of them, and we'll keep our eye on it, but I think the fact the Park Board spoke up, there are other provisions in that same article that raised concerns by the city's collective bargaining groups and other people, and it was not a well thought out idea to add an editorial comment, but we'll stay on top of it, and thank you for the board for stepping up and paying attention.
Go ahead.
Thank you, President Forney. I'll also say that sometime after the meeting started, City Council President Elliot Payne also came into the room, but he didn't speak, but he was there to observe. And I think it's interesting. I think I'm grateful that our team here is observing and staying in touch with what's happening with that particular commission, because it's a big impact to us. I'd also say that at the table, I think maybe frequently is the city attorney, and we're not in that same role. But I spoke with the city council president afterwards, and I think his intention is also to stay engaged with what's coming out of their work. I respect their work. I'm grateful for the dedication it takes to be so deliberative about something like a charter, but it's really important for what we do, so.
Grateful for the eyes on it. I really appreciate it. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. Okay, I am now going to move to open time, and I am going to read the rules. Thanks to all of you who want to share your thoughts and ideas with us during open time. Before we start, I want to provide an abbreviated version of the open time board rules. All individuals wishing to speak may call in before noon the day of the meeting to be placed on the agenda and can sign up at the board meeting prior to the start of open time. I will be calling on people on the sign-up list only. Open time for public input shall not exceed a total of 15 minutes with a time limit to be allotted by myself, the president. Please watch the timer up here to be considerate of others here to speak and to stay within your allotted time. During open time, public testimony will be given without debate and only clarifying questions from the board will be allowed. 2 types of items not appropriate for open time in order to protect the privacy of all individuals are pending litigation and personnel issues. Please refrain from commenting on specific personnel issue. We will not tolerate discriminatory and/or harassing words directed at anyone, so please ensure that all comments you make tonight comply with the policy. This board made the decision many years ago to operate under Robert's Rules of Order. Under Robert's Rules of Order, the ceding of time to another person is not allowed, so only those signed up to speak may only speak for their own allotted amount of time. We also request that each speaker provide his or her name and address. And I'm seeing that we have 5 people here, so I'm going to allow 3 minutes for each one, but I am also noticed that we have Senator Champion here. Senator Champion, would you like to address the board?
First of all, let me say thank you so much for allowing me to address the board briefly, and it's always so good to see my park commissioner there smiling and engaged, and I love that. And of course, I got a chance to hear a little bit about your legislative agenda, so we are looking forward to it. And so thank you so very much for having me. Sorry to just not sign up, but I posted all day that you all were going to be considering hosting a public hearing on a request to rename Farwell Park to Lorraine B. Smaller Park. And I just wanted to add my voice to hopefully that can happen. Ms. Smaller is someone that I've known before she passed, of course, and I know her family when I was a little boy, since being a little boy. And, you know, we grew up during a time where not only your mother could discipline you, but anybody in the neighborhood could discipline you. And trust me that Ms. Smaller was a mother to all of us and made sure that we were doing the right thing. And she and Francine Chicolas, they were what I always called the Golden Girls. And so I am enthusiastically asking you to make this move, because she wasn't just good to me, but every other little kid in the neighborhood up to her death. She would always make sure that she was in that park, providing music, reading, and opportunity. And guess what? I knew it was important for me to be here, so I got in my little car, you know, came from home and going back to St. Paul because I have to go to another fundraiser, but I just didn't want to not stop and say, this is an important notion for you to do, and I just want to lend my voice to that course. And thank you so very much for just recognizing me and giving me a couple minutes to speak. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for your support. That's very much appreciated. And just want to make sure that people understand that at 5:45 is when the actual public hearing is for that. And we're in open time, so, but if you want to speak about both, that's all right. The first person on the list is Leah Mark, and then after that is Patience Costco. If you want to come up forward, Leah, I appreciate it.
So I don't see Leah here, but I'm Patience Cazo.
Oh, okay.
I am Patience Cazo with Sioux Line Community Garden, and Sioux Line Community Garden supporters have been coming here since December of 2021 for open time. We've estimated at least 50 people have made the trip here in person to share with you their stories about Sioux Line Garden and why they want you to protect this park. You received the 1,700 signatures on our petition, and we shared with you that we have a sign-on letter that now has 14 organizations signed on to it. We do have lots of support, and we're exhausted. Trying to keep up with what Hennepin County is doing and what they will do next is a daily chore. We are gardeners, we are not professional lobbyists and policy experts, but we do spend no less than 3 evenings each week meeting, preparing, writing, researching, showing up to open time, managing outreach, doing our communications, and trying to catch up on the policies and the process. We have several people actively involved in this work, putting in the same amount of time as I have been putting, and we've been doing this for over 2 years. We are doing our best to protect this public park and community garden from development. It is really a magical space. It's an oasis in the middle of the city that should be protected. Again, we're gardeners. We're not communications or media professionals, but we have received some media coverage on the issue recently. Some of the coverage has not been accurate, and not much investigative reporting has happened to understand the garden or why garden supporters are upset about Hennepin County's project. Instead, they focus on the claims that the garden is run improperly and that gardeners don't support ADA access to the garden or the greenway, and this is just simply not true. So far, the media has not seemed interested, some of the media has not seemed interested in hearing stories from garden supporters and or our assessment of the flaws in Hennepin County's design plans, their inadequate community engagement, and their avoidance of the 4F approval process. So we do expect the Park Board staff to receive word from Hennepin County any day now about their project, and perhaps something will come to the board for you to take action on. So please stay tuned and vote no to protect Sioux Lane Garden from Hennepin County's proposed bike path. And please join us on Saturday, February 10th at 1 p.m. We're going to have a Valentine's celebration at our garden. And I know there's some folks from the Overlook Garden here tonight. I just wanted to express my support for that garden too. Obviously, community garden space is really valuable to a lot of our community members. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Maureen Wells, and after that is Charles Weed.
I'm Maureen Wells. I live at 1705 Stevens, right next to the Overlook Garden. And since the resolution passed, on behalf of myself and Loring Park, who is sitting right next to me, we really want to thank you for helping us preserve this garden and the memory of Robert Scafty, who we all loved and who we miss dearly. So that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Charles?
Hi, my name is Charles Weed. I live at 4015 Pillsbury Avenue South. I'm also the president of Minneapolis Community Clay Courts. And I'm just here. You have a few items in front of you later on in this meeting, but I haven't been back here in 3 years. The first time I was here was to advocate for the clay court that's at Waveland Triangle in Linden Hills. So it's just great to be back, express my gratitude to the entire board. Many of you are new faces, but some of you were here, and you took a real chance on us, and it's going fabulously. We're going into our 3rd season at the clay court. It is the only public clay court that doesn't have a membership, that's open to anybody that wants to come play, that I can find in the United States. So it's really a gem to us, not just for the tennis, but for the community that gathers there. I wish you all could be there just to see on a Saturday morning how many people show up and are so grateful for that court. So I really enjoy taking care of it. The rest, I have a lot of volunteers that help me. So what's in front of you is we're going into our 3rd season, and it's going very, very well. It's much easier to take care of a clay court than I thought it would be. A lot of people want more. Adam and I have been spending about a year trying to figure out where that location might be. It's in Commissioner Musich's district along the Minnehaha Creek. So we're hoping that that site can be, that you guys will approve of that site, that we can get started. If you sign the memo of understanding, then we'll start raising money tomorrow. So I'd love to break ground at in the fall of 2025. So that's 18 months from now, and that'd be wonderful. So thank you for your support. Even if you don't approve of it, that just means I get to play more tennis on the clay court. So thank you.
Thank you, Charles, for your service. And the next person last person is Mitchell Hansen. Mitchell here.
Hi, President Forney and Commissioners, thank you for letting me speak. I'm just speaking on one particular issue today, and that's just contracts with Eber Construction. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but there's a direct warning from the Laborers District Council of Minnesota and North Dakota. So Ebert is located in Loretto. It's a white-owned business. They recently lost a lawsuit to the city Shakopee for intentionally underbilling. They've been decided by the Laborers District Council, and MnDOT terminated for cause a Chaska project involving them. They recommend that given Ebert's poor track record, we recommend that public owners thoroughly investigate. They claim that they cut corners on public expense that is poor quality, and there's evidence that they've taken advantage of taxpayers. Also, unsafe use of child labor. So I respectfully request an audit of Ebert on all of their projects, starting with Spark Studios in Harrison, because there's cause for this, I believe, and I think that's pretty fair. I am a producer myself. I was thrilled to get the chance to work with kids. I was really excited, but there was only one workstation, like one interface. I can't, even if I wanted to and was allowed, I couldn't teach like that. It's a one-player game, and if you have kids, a one-player game is problems. No one wants to do that. So considering these violations and terminated contracts and issues of poor performance, I would request an audit for the Spark Studios in Harrison, and just to look carefully at this entity as is recommended from the Laborers District Council of Minnesota and North Dakota. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Leah Mark here? Asking again for Leah Mark. Not seeing her, I am going to close then our open time. And if it's okay with everybody, I think I'm just going to go straight into our public hearing, and I'm going to read the rules on that. So thanks to all of you who want to share your thoughts and ideas with us during tonight's public hearing. Before we start, the board would like to provide an abbreviated version of the public hearing rules. All individuals wishing to speak can sign up prior to the start of the public hearing today. If you have not signed up to testify, please do so at the entrance of the boardroom. Excuse me. The public hearing will have a time allotted by me, the chair, based upon how many people are here. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm reading the rules well before I need to, but anyway. Please watch the timer up here to be considerate of others to speak and stay within your allotted time. During public hearing, public testimony will be given without debate, and only clarifying questions from the board will be allowed. We will not tolerate discriminatory and/or harassing words directed at anyone. So please ensure that all comments you make tonight comply with that policy. The board made the decision many years ago to operate under Robert's Rules of Order. Under Robert's Rules of Order, the ceding of time to another person is not allowed. We also request that each speaker provide his or her name. And I will be calling on the testifiers at the end of the hearing 3 times before the hearing closed. But prior to that, we will have a presentation of what it is we are having the hearing on. My apologies. Deputy Superintendent Ringel, take it away.
President Forney, thank you. Commissioners, thank you. I'm going to do a little work here to introduce this naming nomination to you. And we will have some of the nominators actually provide a little bit of information to you as well, and then we'll move into the public hearing. So this is a request to rename Farwell Park to Lorraine B. Smaller Park. This request was submitted on November 15, 2023, and it was not, the nomination is from Amina Smaller and Martine Smaller. Per our naming requirements and our policy and our procedure, we need to provide a copy of this nomination to several individuals and organizations. So the Assistant Superintendent of Planning, myself, the neighborhoods that are adjacent to it, so in this case, the Northside Residents Redevelopment Council, Councilmember Ellison, and all of the commissioners. And all of that has been complete. So to orient you to Farwell Park, not Farwell or Farview Park, it's Farwell Park. And so a couple of images here that I have. One is basically of the second park district, and you can see the location. They're pretty close to Theodore Wirth Park. And then this image of the actual park comes up out of the service area master plan for the area, so you get a sense of kind of what the amenities are. This park recently did get some improvements around the playground, so the geometry there isn't exact, but it gives you a sense of the layout and the contents of that park. The actual name comes from the title of the street, which is just to the north of it, that Farwell Place. It has never been formally named in any way. It's a name that was passed on to it when it was platted in 1889. And so that's the origin of it. There's not much more to say that we know at the moment. Of course, this is a 2-year process, so more information might come out, but that is the information that we have on the current name. Lorraine B. Smaller. We received quite a bit of information about her in the actual nomination. Had lived in North Minneapolis for 15 years, was very active in charter school development, hands-on child development center, which grew into the Cedar Hill Academy. Retired from education at 70 and then became the founder of the We Care programming arts program at Farwell Park, with then several pieces of information about the free programming that was provided, the collaborations with several different organizations, and then just an advocacy for the park itself in terms of the maintenance and care of it. And at this point is actually when I would invite anybody from the family or the nominators to come forward and provide any additional information. All right, here we go. Welcome. Please state your name and share any information you'd like.
Okay. Hi, my name is Gail Smaller, and I am Lorraine's youngest son. I'm here with my brother, my dad, and my wife, Martine. And so we're hoping that, given the legacy that my mom provided and the opportunities for people in the community, you know, it was just a blessing for a lot of our residents to be able to drop their kids off in the summertime, go to work, not worry about them, pick them up at 4:30, 5 o'clock. Sometimes my dad would get irritated because we'd have kids at the house at 6 o'clock because she took them home from the park. You know, and for me, today's just been a tough day, just with everyone calling and, you know, providing their testimony. So one of the things that I am asking, and I know it goes against the proposed policy, but given that she passed 2 years ago, what our family would like to see is kind of an expedited process, because with the work that NERC has done and a lot of residents have done with the park kind of having a grand opening in the spring, we thought the timing of releasing, you know, introducing the new park with the new name would be nice, just for the residents and for the family as kind of an opening for the new park. So I realize that that's a tall ask, but it was something that I at least wanted to present to the board to see if that is something that would be considered as something that is possible. Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next slide I hear, barring the request for an expedited process or expedited process, I will say that per our policy and procedure, we would be looking at holding the second public hearing in September of 2025, and that occurs approximately 2 months prior to the final vote, which would be scheduled for November 2025. This public hearing, as well as the second public hearing, follows our notification process. So it goes into Star Tribune, it goes out through GovDelivery, it goes out through our channels that we typically use for public hearing notification. We are required for our public hearing to have 4 key commissioners at them, and it has to be all of the at-large commissioners, as well as the commissioner from the district that the naming is in, and we have met that test tonight, so we are in good shape there. Looking forward, just in general, kind of where we're at with the pending naming actions, you will have another public hearing for a naming. Your next meeting for Al Whitman. There's also Parquet Monarca, which would likely be in March, and then there are a couple others that will be for the second public hearing that would come in 2025. With that, that is the complete presentation, and I will begin doing the clock for the public hearing.
Thank you. I did get it out of order, but hopefully people remember the rules. So we do have, what do we have? We have 7 or 8 people here, but I'm going to invite you each to come up and share your comments. Cynthia Fernandez next is going to be Blair Lee. Cynthia.
Hi, good evening. Hi, everybody. Glad you're here. I'm here in support of naming Farwell Park after Miss Lorraine Smaller. Actually, she's been a resident of Minneapolis for 50 years, not 15. I worked with Miss Smaller with the Hands-On Child Development Center when she was starting at Lincoln Elementary School. There are a lot of students and community members whom have gone on to college, who are raising families now, and because of Miss Smaller, I couldn't tell you the words, and I was hoping to get some of the students here today, but understanding that there will be another meeting, I will make it my business to make sure that they're here. She is an icon. She is a African-American leader. I would put her up there with a Frederick Douglass. I would put her up there with a Fannie Lou Hamer. She spoke truth to the children, to families, to adults. She gave individuals jobs. She started me. To me, she's my mother. She is a mother to me. At my home, her picture resides with my mother's picture. With my mother's picture. It would be an honor. It would be a blessing. And it would honor her to have that park named after her. A lot of the students that participated in the program go to that park. Their children go to that park. A lot of their children still reside here in Minneapolis. I don't know, does anybody here on the board know or ever heard of Miss Lorraine Smaller? Thank you, thank you. So you know her record. You know what she has done throughout various parks, Lincoln Elementary School, Jordan Park, Seed Academy Harvest Prep. Her students have performed at the Juneteenth every year. And I'm so proud to say that I helped conduct some of those. A lot of the individuals who she gave their start do not live here. Otherwise, they would be here speaking on her behalf. It just would be a blessing. It would be an honor. She's done a lot of work in Minneapolis, and she also has done a lot of work in St. Paul with Rondo. She is, to us, a community, a legend. I can speak for myself. I love her. I honor her. I revere her. I respect her. She gave me my start in Minneapolis Public Schools. She saw the capacity and what I could do without an education. She gave me that opportunity. I went on to work for the Minneapolis Public Schools. I went on to work for the Minneapolis Park and Rec, Farwell Park, Stewart Park, North Commons, Farview. Thank you. So that must mean my time is up.
Right.
Thank you so much. I would ask you all to strongly consider that, and those of you who know, put some pressure on the rest of them who don't know. Thank you so much, and have a blessed day.
Thank you for your remarks, and I apologize for not indicating that I'm going to ask for 3 minutes, but I understand we might be having an interpreter, so we'll give a little bit of latitude there, so for people to know. Next then speaker is Blair Lee, and after that is going to be Gail Smaller. Is Blair here? Not seeing Blair jumping up and everything. Gail, if you want to come forward, if you're here, and then.
Gail spoke.
Oh, I asked for,
earlier,
oh, I
so
thought that was Cynthia. It's Cynthia Fernandez.
she already spoke. And then Gail spoke earlier. Is he still here and does he want to?
list. Should I take that spot?
No.
Gail?
Okay, so we have Cynthia Fernandez, we have Blair Lee, and then Gail Smaller. If one of you want to step forward, I'm not seeing any of you. Okay, then the next person was Crystal Porter.
Hiding in the corner. Hello. So my name is Crystal Porter, resident in Willard Hay. So I met Mrs. Smaller in 2016 during a time when, oh God, I'm gonna cry. During a time when I was managing a career, serving on a couple boards in North Minneapolis and raising my kids on my own. Sorry. Whew. My son was just 5 years old at the time and was a complete handful. Summers were especially difficult, not having a reliable child care for my son. While school's out, and being told no by everyone in my social circle due to their busy schedules or because he was simply a handful. I'll never forget the day I brought my son to Miss Smaller's summer camp at what is now Farwell Park. I was actually really nervous because his impossible behavior and boatload of curious energy. When it came time to pick him up, I approached Mrs. Smaller and asked her, how was he? With basically one eye closed, bracing myself for the bad news, and a long lecture about his rambunctious actions, which I was conditioned to expect whenever I picked him up from someone else's care. She casually responded, he was great. With both of my eyes now wide open, I said, wow, really? She said, yep. I don't know what kind of magic this woman had with our kids, but all I know is it worked. As the years went on and as I progressed in my career, she continued to stay in touch with me. She called and messaged me regularly and would ask me how I was and checked in with Gilbert even after he was no longer at her camp. She supported me in my path even as I ran for city council in 2021. She went from Mrs. Smaller to Mama. It treated me like a daughter and my son like a grandson when I lacked a parental figure. And my son had no grandparents in his life. I am so grateful for the blessing she has been to my family and the many lives she has touched in our community. I want to thank you all for allowing us to speak tonight so that we can once again express our love for someone who has so much love for us, and for the opportunity for us to express our love for her in a big way by honoring her legacy, naming our park after my mama, Lorraine B. Smaller.
Lovely, thank you for sharing. Albert Briscoe, and then Michelle Livingston, I think that is.
Hey, you all, my name is Albert Briscoe, and I'm actually a recipient of the service that Ms. Smaller provided in our neighborhood. She's like the matriarch of our neighborhood. I know our first speaker was saying she wanted, our students to be here. Well, I'm one of them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a testament of that. I'm a homeowner in North Minneapolis. That's my wife back there. We got 16 grandkids. I'm an upstanding citizen due to the tutelage I received from Ms. Smaller. And in our community, we kind of, in our neighborhood, we got a saying that goes like, the kids, they're not going to listen to what their parents say all the time, but they going to do what their parents do. And that's what happened to us, to her sons, to Gail, doing the work that we're doing in the community. I'm also the founder of a literacy initiative called To Succeed, You Must Read, where we've held multiple summer programs in Farewell Park. And what the sister Crystal Porter was saying was this: I don't know Lorraine B. Smaller as Lorraine B. Smaller. That's Mama Smaller to me. She's actually, I've known them all my life since I was a child. Mr. Smaller, all the kids, they've always had their home open to us. They provided, like Crystal was saying, one of the things we did do, and the part we fed the kids breakfast, fed them lunch, the parents could just drop their kids off. You know, they were learning different skills. If they were literary, I think we was retaining 50 kids in the park in the summertime when they were supposed to be running around going crazy, but they were coming learning literary skills, you know, engaging in literary activities and different skills that they could. Miss Smaller have guests, local, you know, performers. She'd have a whole slew of things set up for the kids to learn from. So I'm here. I'm just a testament of what she's done in the community, who she's been to me, who she's been to my sister. Most of the people that's in my neighborhood, my family's lived on 16th and Sheridan in the Willard Hay community right there, 6 blocks away from Farewell Park for 70 years. So I've been witnessing Miss Smaller do her work in the parks for year after year after year after year after year. So I just want to say that, you know, and be someone up here that is an actual example of the work she's done in the community.
Michelle, I believe, and then after that is Stacy Bell. And then one of you here.
Who's next right now?
Huh?
Michelle or Stacy?
Yes,
Michelle.
Michelle.
I'm just gonna make this quick. Lorraine Smaller, a lot of people would know her as Mama, Auntie Mama, Grandma. My family has known Lorraine Smaller since our kids were elementary. All of my kids are 40 plus right now. She was super impactful and influential over their lives. I was a single mom. Ms. Porter spoke a lot to that. I'm gonna try not to use this box. But and I worked and attended school, and Miss Smaller in our lives started out with the hands-on program in which she actually groomed my sister and another sister who's on her 3rd master's, all influenced by Lorraine Smaller into education. They've both been teachers in the public school system and have both worked in the park system. And my mastering sister still currently works in a park system, and she's influenced all of our children. She inspired them toward their education, their history, their esteem, their culture. Miss Smaller, Mama, Auntie Mama, fed everybody. She provided counsel to all of us mothers. It was always, come here, baby, let me talk to you. Picking the kids up, dropping them off. She'd also get you to try to do something. No, baby, I could use some help with this over here. Can you help me with this over here? But in so doing, she engaged us all to be participants in her work. Fast forward, because this is about Falwell Park. When Miss Smaller started the We Care program, the We Care Performing Arts program, she pulled so many youth in the community into the arts, into their confidence, and influenced them at a time where we were losing young people left and right. And Miss Smaller created that space for them at Farview. And at the same time, she never stopped providing all the resources that she began to provide years ago. Many of our children are over 40, but a lot of the children that are in their 20s and 30s right now, whose trajectory was completely changed, was changed because of the We Care program at Falwell Park. I lived within the vicinity of Falwell and Fairview, for my duration of being in Minnesota for 45 years. And so I was completely engaged with Mama Smaller from the time I met her when my kids were elementary students all the way into their 40s when our family had a major crisis. And we seeked out Miss Smaller to help us get through it. And she embraced us all. She provided us resources, space. And my mother, who hasn't been here in 25 years, she filled a void for us in counsel, in provision, in direction. And I promise you that she has changed the trajectory of so many young people's lives in North Minneapolis for the entire time that she lived there, that it would be so important and absolutely honoring to rename Falwell Park in the name of Lorraine B. Smaller. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Stacy Bell?
Good evening.
Yes.
We love you, Grandma Lorraine. We miss you so much. I think about you every day. Grandma Lorraine, my daughter's grandma. My best friend. Who would think somebody older than you can be your best friend? Who would think your baby daddy's mom could be your best friend? She was my best friend. She made me feel so proud of myself as just who I was. That I was enough and I was good. And when I was bad, she would say. She was the same in her house as she was everywhere. What she did. I heard she cussed out public school system for us. Like there wasn't nothing that she wouldn't do. I worked at the camp once before. I went to camp with them kids. And Grandma Lorraine is a queen, a legend. I knew her and loved her so much, and I didn't even know she sang. I just seen her work. I never got to see her sing. She did the jazz in the park, and I like to record stuff, so I took the CCX media camera to the jazz in the park, and I recorded the whole thing. So I have it on this little chip that I hope that one day I get to put it on public access with their permission so we can watch it again, see the performances again, and see her there in the visions and the recording. I asked that the park be named after Lorraine B. Smaller because in the world, there's so many places named after so many things that are traumatizing, street names, city names that represent everything that she wasn't. There's things named after people who have stolen, raped, and pillaged, but she built up our community, our spirits, our lives, our children. She is in me every day still. So I asked that the park be named after her so we have somewhere to go, to remember her, to praise her, to be in peace and remembrance of her. May there be a freaking statue of her throwing her wig up in the air like Mary Tyler Moore. I hope there's gardening plot. Please put a raised bed because I used to bring her vegetables and she loved it. And I miss bringing her everything good because she deserved it. I just wanted to give her everything. Thank you.
Thank you all. That is everybody on our list. If there's anybody else, though, who would like to share, please come forward. We really would love to have you share your stories. And I just want to say to our last speaker and everything, we actually are collecting park stories just like what you just shared. We'd love for you to your documentation. We'd love to have that. So please come forward, sir.
Good afternoon and good evening. My name is Floyd G. Smaller, Jr. I'm a retired teacher, coach, administrator, father, grandfather, lover of my family, Martine. Gave me some wonderful grandkids, along with the help of my wife, Lorraine. You guys almost made my life kind of miserable up here. I was hoping it'd go easier, but I met Lorraine in 1961. Well, 1960, because I married her in 1961. It wasn't a long engagement. I thought that was the best thing I could do at the time. And she followed me to Arkansas to college. And she followed me to Hot Springs for different things. And my graduation, she was there. My football games, she was there. My track meets, she was there. My pork chops she used to cook, she was there. And after I finished 4 years of teaching and coaching in Arkansas, I stopped by Ohio with her. And then we came back to Minnesota, where I spent the next 31 years in St. Paul, teaching, coaching, being an administrator, founder of Rondo Days. I took her everywhere with me that I could. Her pictures with mine in the induction into the Minnesota State High School League Hall of Fame. I wanted to be everywhere that I was. For better, for worse, for rich or poor. We did it 60 years. And we were never rich, so you can guess about the rest. But I'm rich in family, and I'm rich in love, and I was fortunate that I had a person like her, and kids like I've got, and grandkids who are just out of this world. Those are my biggest trophies, and I have 7 inductions into the Hall of Fame. Comes through my family, who I love, and they don't even know it. I admire them also. And they've been with their grandmother, their grandfather, like no other kids have been in my life. My biggest investment was in them. And I wanted Lorraine to be everywhere that I've been or anything I've done. I worked in St. Paul, where I was raised. She worked over here in Minneapolis, where she found a house that I had to pay for. And we lived in Minneapolis for her, but I still claim it for her, 56 years. And I claim both cities. And I have a street named after me in St. Paul. And there's a park over there, Rondo Park, where me and my friend Marvin Anderson have constructed. And her name's on a brick there with mine in that park. So I think it would only be fortunate that this park be named after her. She worked so many places, I didn't know where she was half the time. And just did wonderful jobs. I just hear the comments of these people and the things they have to say about her. It's unreal, the energy she put out to make people happy. If you will bear with me, I would like to, if I can see it, I would like to read the poem that my grandson, firstborn, wrote about his grandmother. I gotta find it. Queen Mother. Heavy has been your head carrying crowns, all blackness and womanhood. You made the burden seem light, made the journey seem worth risking, made love seem unconditional. You taught me that love could be unconditional, could be created in a kitchen or a classroom, a hospital or a dressing room, royal in all scenes, a queen, a monarch, and matriarch. You are the reason we are royal. You are the reason we know love. You are the reason we get back up when we fall. Strength and security, wrapped in arms and kisses to our heads. Thank you for raining down on us, for showing us our power, for giving us voice. May we never know silence. May we only know peace. We're glad you know peace. Rest easy, Queen. Gail Smaller, Jr. I think I'll close with that. I would like to go on, but I don't think I can.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for sharing. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to share? Or is there anybody else who can top that wonderful comments? Please.
I just want to very quickly say I'm a representative of a young man who was thrown to the side, kicked to the curb, and this woman, who is not only a sister but a soldier, a lady, and a liberator, a woman, and a warrior. These women in our community don't get thanks enough for picking up those who get pushed to the side, thrown away, and set aside. You give up on these individuals, but with her firm heart and her ability to have faith, she's able to inspire and motivate, put life up in an individual who's damn near dead. And we're thankful for her. Her representation in this community for those who've been pushed to the side, left alone, thrown away, it's nothing like it. When you're down on one knee and you can't carry yourself, she can pick you up. She can inspire you and motivate you. I don't want to spend a lot of time. My name is Brother Leon, and I was one of the last students of a program. I was about 25 years old in a classroom with people who were like 16 and 17. I worked at the Men's Warehouse. I was wearing suits every day. I was trying to get my 16 or 18 credits so that I can get a high school diploma and go ahead further myself. I also have 15 grandkids, 4 children. My youngest is 23 years of age. 31 is my oldest. They all stair-step. I had a child every year from 15 to 19. I wore Dickie suits and Chuck Taylors, and I had a diaper bag. Yeah, I balanced it. I was inspired and motivated by Mrs. Smaller, who gave me an opportunity to get those 16 credits along with Mr. Chicolis, who was one of my North High School teachers. It was with her motivation and a little bit of tough love that pushed me through. She is the best representation of a park board in North Minneapolis. Hands down, you wouldn't want to go nowhere else. Put that woman's name on that park board. And let the reflection of her values seep through all of the children who participate at your park board. I say that in peace. Thank you.
John?
Hi, my name is Sean Fitzgerald. And before I start, I want to say that I have great respect for Ms. Smaller. I don't want to offend, especially the grieving people who are here tonight. But I've been a member of Park Watch for 19 years, and I've watched this process many times. And while I have submitted some comments after listening tonight, I'd like to change them and say it's time for you guys to come up with a better process. First of all, there are maybe 100 or 150 people like Ms. Smaller. I listed 6 on my original speech, and they are extraordinary, outstanding people who've made major contributions to the park system. I'm not talking about moms like me who sold hot dogs for uniforms. I'm talking about the heroes. And yes, I do think that they should have a plaque with their image in bronze or brass in the rec centers or whatever is appropriate, and I don't think we should have to wait until they're dead. I had the wonderful experience of being one of Fran Dunning's girls when she started her career. And at the end of her career, she was at Northeast Park. And my son was one of Fran kids. So I know what you're talking about with multi-generational leaders in our parks. I'm concerned about this board in particular has renamed many places, and you know, women, this is a man's world in our city. Most of the named streets are for men. Almost all of the named parks are for men. I'm not sure we'll ever catch up. It took us, 40 years from when I got the vote to get a majority of women on a local board. It's, the number of African Americans represented in naming parks, you can count on one hand. That includes buildings. I don't know if there's any Irish Americans that have been honored. I do know that when my son went to Webster Open School, there were 65 ethnicities represented in that school in the 1980s. So you don't have enough real estate to honor people by category, except for outstanding leaders. We need place names that are neutral, that are welcoming to all the people who are here and to the various groups that are yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that wishes to speak? Okay.
Good evening, how y'all doing? My name's Steve Powell. I don't have the stories that they have or he have. I'm a little older than them, but well, I'd like to say that Miss Smaller used to have a clothing store on Plymouth Avenue. They had several black businesses, and she was one of them. And when all the parks closed down at 10 o'clock, and her store closed, and so we just played football in the parking lot of King's parking lot where her store was at. And the police, they just come and run us up out of there. So she was like, y'all can come to the park over here, Fall World Park over there. So we used to go there until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I got a lot of whoopings from going to that park and going home, sneaking out, going back to the park. But what she did for us, she gave us somewhere to go and come. I mean, like, when school was out, we had to wait till the street lights came on, go home, because at the time you had to be in the house before the street lights came on. And I just sneak out the house because I had to go to this park because it was a safe haven for us. And it would be an honor to have that park in her name because I have 3 sons of my own. They didn't get a chance to experience this park, but I would hope that my grandkids would experience this park right here. So with that being said, I don't want to take a lot of time, but I got a lot of discipline in that park over there. And I took a lot of discipline at home when I got home. But that's all I got to say. Thank you.
I think we're going to come to a close on the hearing here. Thank you all for coming. I will close our public hearing. I really appreciate all the testimony here. And then we'll bring us back then to our agenda. And we have a resolution to move, Resolution 2024. Somebody want to move that for me?
On behalf of the Standards and Conduct Committee, I'll move Resolution 2024-6, receiving and filing a memorandum from Council Rice outlining the process used to fill the at-large commissioner vacancy in 2023.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing any lights? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. Okay, I believe then we are at reports of officers. Superintendent Bangor, please share.
Thank you, President Forney and Commissioners. We get going into this right away, and again, we will focus on the 5 strategic directions at this board as put forward in the 4 years, and we'll kind of highlight those areas again. So the first one we'll talk about is strategic direction A. I'll wait for one moment for the pictures because they're good. Thank you, Jennifer. So strategic direction A is act boldly for our climate future. So the Ford F-150 Lightning equipment shop, coming from equipment shop. So we did evaluate all equipment replacements with sustainable technology alternatives in mind. And this is just, again, a really exciting example of how we're moving our organization to sustainable infrastructure and equipment. So Equipment Services received the first of 3 2023 Ford F-150 Lightning Pro electric trucks. These electric trucks have a 240-mile battery range when fully charged, and optimum operating conditions are required. These are the first fully electric trucks purchased at MPRB. And if you look out in a parking lot in the charging area, you'll see the Ford F-150 out there, and it's really exciting that we have these. And thank you to, of course, Dale, and of course, operations and the work they've been doing to get this equipment for our organization. I think at the end of the day, I think we are shooting for about 10 of these trucks. So right now we're having 3, so very, very exciting. Strategic direction B, cultivate each community's place and honor cultural traditions in Minneapolis parks. And this is the volunteerism performance goal. So the board approved 15 performance goals in 2022, including the volunteerism performance goal. The team working on volunteerism is pleased to report that one of their first tasks of reviewing the current program and develop recommendations report is complete. Staff will share the full report in an upcoming meeting as a study item. Here is some of the data that will be included. Staff hours dedicated to volunteerism by division and volunteer hours service by division. Also, the annual volunteer impact report is nearly complete for 2023, so please watch for it in the February 21st petitions and communications. So again, we'll be coming forward with a study item with that. I'm very excited to see that moving forward. Strategic direction C, implement quality youth and intergenerational programs. So this, of course, was the really exciting 140th exhibit. So on April 3rd, 2023 marked the 140th anniversary of the Minneapolis Park Board. To celebrate, the Minneapolis Park Recreation Board launched a story collection and storytelling initiative called 140 Years, Our Parks, Our Stories, that invited staff, volunteers, park visitors, and community leaders to share their Minneapolis park stories and build a community archive to preserve them for future references and research in MPRB archival collection. The MPRB is excited to announce that the selection of these stories will be on view at Minneapolis Institute of Arts from February 3rd to 25th, 2024. And I know we've all just experienced this, so it's kind of after the fact, but the exhibit is just a slice of the growing community source collection, woven together stories from the past 140 years that help define the character of Minneapolis' renowned parks. It features 14 stories in written, audio, and visual form. The Our Parks, Our Stories exhibition is free for all to enjoy during the regular MIA hours, 10 a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m., Tuesday through Sunday, with hours extended until 9 o'clock p.m. on Thursdays. And I won't go through every single one that's there, but please take the opportunity to go and look at this beautiful exhibit at MIA. It's really amazing. At the February 3rd MIA event, Mayor Fry declared February 3rd Jane Miller Day, and President Forney also recognized a few commissioners with a new emeritus status that occurred at that wonderful event. One thing that's really cool that's happening is we're having a senior event. So up to 10 seniors whose stories are part of the MPRB 140th anniversary exhibit have been invited for a special viewing of the exhibit on Wednesday, February 14th. The tour will be led by Mia staff, who will then lead the group in a special art project while enjoying coffee and Valentine treats. And the stories we heard here today, I hope, get into that story because they're absolutely amazing. And we just saw today the community come forward with a beautiful story that we should reflect in our park system. So strategic direction D, care for our park assets to meet evolving needs and practices. Van Cleve and Wyndham Park's ice ring maintenance. It's kind of shocking to see ice out there, but it really is. It's like an old fold already, but it's really current, really not too long ago. With the cooperation of the weather, the Northeast Service crew was finally able to generate high-quality ice for the ice rinks, Northeast Van Cleve and Wyndham Parks. In order to get the ice rinks ready for open and public use, the park keepers and crew leaders worked long hours and double shifts in below freezing weather, applying as much water as possible using fire hoses and 1-inch hoses. So we wanted to at least to say that we give a valiant effort to do this and to recognize the wonderful work by Leif Rona at Van Cleve Park and the grounds master sweeper, and McKay Anderson and Andy Haberman on the fire hose at Wyndham Park Northeast. We see you, we recognize you, we are grateful for you, even though it was really short. Valiant effort and very grateful. Strategic direction E, steward our natural resources. Pruning. So here we constantly are doing this. In an effort to improve public safety, Forestry performed routine pruning along the Northeast Diagonal Regional Trail. By removing brush and branches that infringe on the trail, visibility will be improved with new leaves appearing this spring. A bucket truck was used to remove dead and broken overhead limbs. While performing the work, numerous trail users complimented crews on the work being performed. With that, President Forney and Commissioners, that's what I wanted to share with you. If you have any questions, we are available. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner L.
Yes, thank you for recognizing me, and thank you for your report tonight. With all due respect, an electric F-150 vehicle is not acting boldly for our climate future. F-150 Lightning EV trucks can weigh up to 6,500 pounds. They, just so you know, so larger cars with heavy batteries that have are taller fronts they endanger others on the street. Tall vehicles have bigger blind spots and are more likely to strike a person's torso or head. This is especially bad for short people, so like children and youth. Heavier cars require more energy to move. Heavier cars exert more pressure on tires, eroding them faster. And heavier cars, they damage our roadways more. So I really hope that we can reconsider this purchase as we look towards the future and instead think about electric vehicles that are smaller, that have hood heights that are also shorter. And I'm so grateful to Dale and all his work and for the asset management team, but I just have to disagree with you on this. Thank you.
Commissioner Menz.
Thank you, President Forney. Thank you for your report, Superintendent Bangor. I did want to take an opportunity to kind of highlight that effort to put the ice out. I think that it's an incredible amount of effort that the staff and the maintenance crew put into those ice rinks. But I would like to offer with respect, I'm hoping that the staff can plan for the future to act boldly for ice skating in this city, and that maybe the hours lost and the maintenance that we do every year to get ice rinks in our communities may be a thing of the past. And how are we going to act boldly to make sure that we maintain this level of recreation? So I hope that, this year is probably somewhat of an anomaly, there is a lot of effort that goes into putting those ice rinks up, and a lot of maintenance costs, and a lot of cost to the fields that they go on. And I would encourage us as a board to really consider those investments and how we figure out how to get ice consistently in the city of Minneapolis, and re-examine maybe how we do our work around those ice rinks in the communities. And if it's possible, at some point, a report on how many days of ice we had in Minneapolis in the rinks or in the community spaces, because I think it was only like 6 or 7 days, and how many rinks. It would be nice to know what that compares to with other years, and what it looks like moving into the future.
Commissioner Thompson? And just a reminder, this is questions addressed to the superintendent.
I mean, I would love other ice rinks, but I just wanted to take a moment to thank you and thank staff, because I'm sure it was a thankless job to try so hard. And I think of the Loppet now that's preparing, and to get all that work together only to have the ice evaporate away. And I'm sure that it probably feels a certain, as the kids say, some type of way for all that work. But I just wanted to say thank you. I know that we tried, and maybe it'll get cold enough still someday, who knows. So thank you.
Seeing no other lights, I would like to call upon Council Rice. He's going to give us some updates on.
If I could, Madam President, and I know we're deep into the meeting, so I'll be extraordinarily brief. You've all received a memo from my partner, Ann Walther, about a decision Judge Wilhelmina Wright made just a week ago today in the Berry case. That's the encampment case. It hasn't received much news attention, but it's a very, very important case. The Berry case has been going on 3 years. There were a half a dozen plaintiffs that were who sued the park board, the city, and the county, claiming the right. They had a constitutional right to live and camp in the parks. The litigation has been going on for quite a while, but the decision that Judge Wright made last week is very significant. The plaintiffs in the case, along with the ACLU, had petitioned for class status, which meant that the named plaintiffs would not only represent themselves, but all similarly situated people that the plaintiffs in the case said could be in the hundreds of people. And that would have been a significant expansion of the case had that Judge Wright agreed with that motion to certify the action and the representatives as a class matter. Judge Wright's ruling does not dispose of the case, but it greatly limits, I think, the potential effect of the case. It's a very landmark decision in the 3+ year history of this case. It doesn't resolve the case, but from my perspective as general counsel, it's a very positive development for the board. It makes the resolution of the case more likely. It likely also limits your financial exposure, and it also makes sure that the ability of this board to oversee and manage the park system is much greater. As I said, the case is not over. The plaintiffs and the ACLU could appeal Judge Wright's decision, but it's a big landmark in the case as it moves forward. I know some commissioners, like Commissioner Schaefer, have asked. The board has expended considerable amount of fees over the last 3 years defending this matter. We likely will going forward, but a lot of the heavier lift in the case is behind us.
Thank you so much for that update. Appreciate it. So I will then move on to petitions and communications, and I'll start with Commissioner Schaefer.
I just want to say thank you to Ann Walther and Council Rice for that update and for all of your tireless work on the Berry case. It's really appreciated. I know that many of us were confronted with that issue when we were campaigning, and so it has been a long road, but I just want to personally say thank you. Thank you for your efforts. The other thing I would like to request, either via email or from staff, is we all saw, or some of us saw, the news report about the DNR suit against the city council around the 2648 Marshall Street property, and inferred in the report that our MOU had somehow maybe influenced that decision of allowing a variance. for that residential structure to be built within the bluff. And so I looked back at the MOU a little bit today or yesterday, and it mentions the structure, but does not mention that it was going to go against some of the guidelines for the Mississippi River Corridor and the Shoreline Ordinance. So I would like some clarification around that when the timing is appropriate. That's all I had. Thank you.
Commissioner Menz.
Yeah, I'd also like to submit a thanks to the staff regarding the forestry department, especially for the meeting that they conducted with myself and Carol. It was really well done, really thorough, and really helped ground the work of what's going to happen in the MTech committee and with the Emerald Ash Board. I think that was impressive. Also, I got to go to the operations headquarters, which I had never actually been to. Came to the wrong place. Al got me to the right place, and I managed to get there on 5 minutes late. But also wanted to really send a shout out to Larry Humphrey and Emily Wolf, who really helped me creatively problem solve for a partner organization, the Abdibile Academy, to find some space in the new Minnesota Wild space that we sort of approved last year. So really appreciate the innovation and the willingness to work on that with me.
Commissioner Thompson.
Pass.
Okay. Commissioner Musich.
Thank you, President Forney. I would like to draw my colleagues' attention to, hopefully you already read it in the packet, but if not, I just wanted to highlight the racial equity evaluation for our 2023 community garden season. We're making some great strides towards having the people that are utilizing community garden plots reflect the demographics of the city. And I think that's largely in part to a very well-written policy. So yeah, it's exciting to read about, and if you haven't yet, it's a great read. So that was all I wanted to share. Thanks.
Commissioner Rucker.
Pass.
Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, so session starts on Monday. I think we're well prepared. I just wanted to give a shout out to kind of another big supporter of our park system. That's Senator Carrie Dietzick, who had to step down as the majority leader due to cancer coming back. And so I just want to give our thoughts there and wish her the best. And that's very a difficult situation. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Commissioner Elper.
Thank you. I have two things. First of all, I would like to give a huge thanks to asset management staff who provided excellent customer service and an issue with the trash at Green Central Park. So I just want to say it's a time where it's very brown outside. There's not much snow, and so it hasn't been Earth Day yet, where we've had these massive Earth Day cleanups, and there's garbage out there on the street, and some people are very upset about it. And I just want to say we did a fantastic job showing the public how we respond and what we're doing, and that we're doing the best we can. So specifically, Jeremy Barrick, Jeff Evenson, and then Matthew Bell, Rec Center Director at Green Central, or at Central Gym Park. So thank you. I also just want to say regarding the Marshall Street project, that came before the Planning Commission when I was on the Planning Commission. Given the testimony of the DNR and our MPRB goals, I voted against staff recommendation, so to deny the variance for that project. So it was deemed they had needed a variance because of, I believe it's the Shoreland Overlay District. I continue to think that was the right decision there. And then what happened is the city council then voted to override us. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you for that input. Vice President Benny.
Thank you, President Forney. Well, I have to come clean and admit something, and that is I've become a pickleball player. And I've been trying out different locations in the park system and also using the ActiveNet system, which I feel has definitely gotten better since my kids were little, and I would enroll them in things. And it's just been really interesting. The different park directors, and I'd like you to hear that, Assistant Superintendent Kelb, they're trying different strategies. They're trying different constituencies or people, and I love it. So there's all kinds of variety out there, and in some places it's packed. It's packed with people playing pickleball. It's excellent. And there's even like at the park by me, Lyndhurst, there was a tournament hosted and things like that. So and I just want to say one more thing. 2 people said to me, "Oh, I haven't really been in these buildings other than to vote, you know, and now they're coming down there." So kudos to the staff for exploring different techniques and strategies and even different ways of offering something like pickleball. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Hurrah for our 140th year celebration. I believe that it was a huge success. I thank all of you who worked on it, staff particularly. It was an amazing event. My husband, of course, wrote a poem, and I think he really nailed it. You really felt that we are a part of a park family. And it was a very warm and embracing evening. I thank you all for participating in it and supporting it. I can tell you that Jane Miller, I think, is still recovering from the honoring. But it was just a really positive feeling. I appreciate all of your work on it, and look forward to our next 140 years. With that, I will adjourn the meeting here at 6:45 and turn it over to planning.
Noting the time is 6:46, I'd like to call the Planning Committee to order. Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Commissioner Alper.
Present.
Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Rucker.
Here.
Vice Chair Thompson.
Here.
Chair Benny.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Would someone move the agenda?
I will move the agenda.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. We have one set of minutes. Would somebody move the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, the minutes from the Planning Committee from January 17th, 2024 have been moved. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Okay, we have a couple of resolutions, 3, so would somebody move the first resolution?
I'll move resolution 2024-8, resolution approving encroachment and license for use of 98 square feet of land in front of the subject property at 1982 Kenwood Parkway, encroaching upon parkland at Kenwood Parkway, collecting appropriate fees associated with this encroachment.
Is there any discussion? Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. Wrong button. Thank you, Chair Benny. I'm gonna guess that it seemed clear that these 2 things are connected, and my brain just wasn't entirely sure. It's for a driveway, is that correct? Does someone know?
I believe it's for essentially the sidewalk between the curb and the public side, the public sidewalk.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. And these are all sort of related to the similar parcel, I think, that's been replatted. I think that's what it was. I'll just comment. One question I had, because I'm not totally in love with our process here. No shade meant to anybody in the staff. But one thing that I do think is kind of interesting. So it's kind of a lot for 100 square feet, I think, of sidewalk. Sidewalk is nothing fancy. It's sort of a necessary, especially if you have to shovel to get down to the street or go across. But anyway, but these fees, as I understand them, they are essentially one time, and unless the space is modified, that's it. So if this sidewalk lasts for 100 years, no fee is collected again, and even upon ownership transfers of the parcel, there's no fee collected again. Is there any other discussion, or? Okay, so all those in favor of Resolution 2024-8, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That resolution passes. Would someone move the next resolution, please?
I'll move that one as well. Resolution 2024-9, resolution approving encroachment permit for the use of 96 square feet of land in front of the subject property at 1984 Kenwood Parkway, encroaching upon parkland at Kenwood Parkway, collecting appropriate fees associated with this encroachment.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of Resolution 2024-9, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That resolution passes. Would somebody move the final resolution?
I'll move this as well. Resolution 2024-10, resolution granting temporary construction easement to Ador LLC for purposes of a construction project building residences at 1982 and 1984 Kenwood Parkway, encroaching upon parkland at Kenwood Parkway.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Resolution 2024-10, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That resolution passes, and with that, I'll adjourn the Planning Committee.
And with that, the time being 6:50, I will call the Committee of the Administration and Finance to order. Secretary Ringgold, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Musich,
Present.
Commissioner Olson,
Here.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Here.
Co-Chair Rucker,
Here.
Co-Chair Thompson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Excellent. Would someone like to move our agenda for approval?
I'll move the agenda.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the agenda? Seeing no lights, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. All right, we have a fun little slate of resolutions. There are many, but I think they might go quickly. Would someone like to move our first resolution?
I'll move Resolution 2024-11. This is a resolution approving parking license number LI 523, if that's the one, I'm sorry. With the Minnesota, that wasn't part of the resolution, by the way. With the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs for parking facilities at Minnehaha Regional Park.
Does anyone have any questions or comments surrounding that? Seeing no lights, let's take a vote. Oh, forgive me, Commissioner Schaefer. Yes.
Yeah, I just have a question about how we find out when our licenses are coming up for renewal, if we have a software that tracks that, or as well as our leases. What kind of is that process that, I'm just noticing that sometimes these come through 6 months late, et cetera. I'm just wondering what our process is.
Chair Thompson and Commissioner Schaefer, unfortunately, we do not have a system for them to be in a automated system. They often come up primarily because they're the party, or if I find out that they're coming up. We have so many different agreements that we are trying to put them into a spreadsheet and put them into a system so that we are sort of have a tickler system and telling us when they're expiring. And the other thing that happens often is sometimes the negotiations take longer than we expect them to. So they might be it takes longer than when they expire, much, after or prior to the negotiations actually ending, and then the resolution gets written and gets reviewed. So sometimes that's why the end of the other agreement expires prior to the new one being actually brought to the board for approval. So.
Great. Well, I appreciate that input, and it's kind of like the birthdays in our calendar. But I would encourage us to think about that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing no lights, all those in favor of Resolution 2024-11, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. So I'd like to move our next resolution. Anyone?
Sure, I'll move Resolution 2024-12, resolution approving a 5-year license agreement with Friends of the Boundary Waters Wilderness to store up to 6 canoes in Minneapolis parks in exchange for use of the canoes in programs led by Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board canoe instructors.
Excellent. Does anyone have any questions or comments about this? Seeing no lights. All those in favor of apologize again, Commissioner Musich, by all means.
Thank you, Chair Thompson. I just wanted to note, for our staff that I was excited to see this come through. We have a lot of private watercraft being stored in the system that only the people that own it can use. And this seems like a really unique way to both store things that people need to store that are big and bulky, but also put them to use when they're not being utilized by the owner for the benefit of the Minneapolis residents that are providing that space. So it's quite lovely, and I hope we can see a bit more of this type of thing coming through versus more private storage with no public access for what's being stored there. Thanks.
Anecdotally, I would concur with that. Even as a small child going around the lakes, I used to see the canoes, and I would think they were for rent, and my parents would say, "No, those you can't. Don't touch them." So it's really nice to see us moving this forward. Resolution 2024-12, which would be the number 12. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Anyone want to move the next one?
I'll move Resolution 2024-20. It's a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with Minneapolis Community Clay Courts, a nonprofit organization for collaborative implementation of clay tennis courts at East 46th Street and South 32nd Avenue in Minneapolis within Minnehaha Parkway Regional Trail.
Yes, Commissioner Musich.
Thank you again, Chair Thompson. This is in my district. I'm very excited to see it moving forward. Since I ran for office, I've been hearing from everyone how sad they are about the condition of the tennis courts along Minnehaha Creek. So seeing that we're moving forward with a way to rehabilitate those, since we are unable to utilize our regional park monies for that type of activity, it's very exciting to see that this is happening. When we approved the original clay court agreement, part of that conversation was around how do we ensure that we're investing in portions of the city that haven't been seeing as much investment as South has over history. And part of that conversation was talking about identifying a location in North or Northeast Minneapolis to put a clay court. And I'm wondering if we can get an update on that search, because I was kind of expecting that to be coming before we saw South Minneapolis moving forward. So if you could help me understand that, I'd love it. Thanks.
Chair Thompson, Commissioner Musich. Yes, thank you for this question. When I started working with Minneapolis Community Clay Courts on kind of seeking another opportunity to do another clay courts, as you know, because he testified earlier, Charles Weed from MCCC is here if you have additional questions. We did look around the system, and there's a couple of factors that sort of come into play when we're choosing a facility to transition to a clay court. First of all, the bank size of the court is really important. So on the north side, for instance, almost all the banks of tennis courts are large 4 or 5 bank tennis courts, which are currently heavily used often by high school teams. So we could not have converted any of those to clay courts. The other location that we did explore is sort of almost on the north side. It's on the south side of Bassett Creek along Chestnut Avenue. There are 2 concrete tennis courts in that location. I think the location that's being proposed now and that location in the Bryn Mawr neighborhood, which would be immediately proximal to the Harrison neighborhood. There's bridges across the creek right there. Mr. Weed explored both of those with those neighborhood organizations, so we did some due diligence around that. There was some concern within the Bryn Mawr Harrison area that because the tennis courts were being removed at Bryn Mawr as part of the project that's happening right now, that there was a desire to preserve the hard court tennis also in that neighborhood. So the site along Minnehaha Creek became more attractive because there were other options for other court sports in that area. Northeast, southeast, I will say has not been explored as heavily as some of the other areas, north and then the south area, but it's a place that we can continue to look to. This is one where the opportunity is really ripe because we have courts that are not they're not redeemable. I mean, they would have to be completely reconstructed. They're beyond just a simple resurfacing. So they have to be torn out in any case. And it creates the opportunity to be able to move forward quickly right now. And so that's why we're moving forward with this one. But I agree that there's some additional searching to be done, particularly in District 1.
Wonderful. Thank you for that additional clarification. I just wanted to make sure that we were still pursuing that. Since we had said as a board, well, not this board, but the previous board had said to the public that that was a priority for us. So thank you for helping me understand that it's not off the table. It's just not something we've identified a space for yet. So thank you for that.
Oh, yes. Sorry, Superintendent Bangora.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. Thank you for recognizing me and giving me a brief. I had to say something about this because I am a tennis player and my whole life. And I will tell you how unique this is and how special this is to have a clay court in our park system. As Charles was saying before, it's very rare. When I've played, across the country, you have to get a private club or you have to be part of a membership somewhere to play in a clay court, or you have to be a professional player and then playing like at, the French Open or something. Like, it is such a rare thing. This is a very special thing. And I would say also, one of the things too, I know we talked about is the longevity of these courts and how long they last and how you can take care of them longer than even hard court surfaces. And I think for older tennis players, and we know this very well, clay courts help you from less injury for your hips and your ankles and knees and stuff because you can slide and timing and all those kind of things. And so I just wanted to express, it is an incredible privilege, and I'm grateful for Charles and his team for what they're doing to help take care of these with the MOU. But it's something that really is, for me, very exciting because if we could have, in the dream to have these courts across our park system and have more than just one or two or more, what it means to not only really proficient tennis players who have an opportunity to play in a clay court, but also for older players, that it's so good for them. And I just can't express how wonderful it is. And so I wanted to say, as a tennis player growing up, to be able to walk on a public court free and have no barriers to it is just stunning. And so an incredible thing. So just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That is very exciting. I'm sure I could find someplace in North if we need to. Charles can help me. And for the record, these courts that are becoming clay are the courts that I learned to play on with urban tennis when I was a child. So very exciting. All those in favor, I don't see any other lights, so we're just going to vote on it. All those in favor of Resolution 2024-20, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Look at, see, I knew we'd fly along here. All right. Who wants to move the next one? Because these are all related now, I think.
I'll move Resolution 2024-21, resolution approving the limited fundraising agreement between the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board and Mark Rui. Supporting improvements to the Theodore Worth Home and Administration Building, a National Register of Historic Places structure located in Lindale Farmstead Park.
Is any, oh, yes, Commissioner Shaver.
Yes, I would like a presentation on this.
Yes. Assistant Superintendent Schroeder. I'm excited to hear it.
Presentation, but I can provide kind of an overview of this. The Worth home being a National Register home, we've been studying it for a couple of years through two different firms, looking at deficiencies in the home and trying to find ways that we can not only preserve its historic character, but make it appropriate for contemporary family living for the superintendent, the only resident that will be in this house. We have gone through a process of identifying those deficiencies, beginning to look at how we can address some of them, and the building needs significant work. And I'm certain if we were to let Superintendent Bangora speak, he could enumerate the deficiencies at length. As we look at this, there are deficiencies in the kitchen from when the house was transformed from a residence to an office, back to a residence, and the kitchen is not suitable. The bathrooms are in horrible shape. The heating and ventilation in the building is poor. The windows leak. The roof leaks. There's cracks in the exterior wall. The list goes on and on. But it is a building that the board, not this board, but a board determined would be perpetuated through the National Trust for Historic Preservation. So we're obligated to find a way to make improvements to perpetuate it. We've been doing relatively minor repairs to perpetuate it to this point. But at some point, Mr. Rui, son of former Superintendent Robert Rui, approached Superintendent Bangora with the idea that we needed to take this on more seriously and begin an effort to direct funds to the purpose. It's difficult for us to take park funds, general funds, and direct it to the superintendent's residence. And so the notion of trying to do some limited, and this is called a limited fundraising agreement to start with, was important, so that the notion of what Mr. Rui would be doing on the limited basis is that there is no public campaign at this time. Mr. Rui is reaching out to the families of other superintendents and other limited numbers of people within kind of his sphere of influence to begin raising funds. He will also be looking at contacting some entities that can deliver in-kind goods or services in support of the preservation or restoration of the home. So, if there, for instance, were a window manufacturer who could replace windows that would be in character with the windows that are there, we might pursue a donation of windows or some other favorable agreement with them. And so Mr. Rui is beginning to facilitate that through the same fundraising agreement. It's important that that we call this a limited fundraising agreement. Mr. Rui is not organized as a 501c3, so the funds that he's able to raise or get committed to this would be directed to the park board and will be reserved in a fund specifically created for the purposes of restoring or upgrading the superintendent's residence. We're very early in this, but I will tell you that I think I know that there have been several thousands of dollars donated already. There's a request. I think one of Mr. Rui's siblings is anticipating a donation of stock to the park board. So he's out there doing work on a very limited basis, and believing that eventually we will turn this into a more public campaign.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful. And obviously, I think this is, I'm excited that we're getting going on making some improvements on this. I really thank you for, I just had a couple of questions. Would this be the first time we've done an MOU with an individual? I mean, normally we're with Friends Groups or the Minneapolis Parks Foundation. Can you speak to that a little bit? And how are we going to have some accountability around that relationship if we do move forward?
So, Chair Thompson and Commissioner Schaefer, I don't know that it's the first time we've ever done an agreement with an individual, but we do identify him as an individual in this. He is not collecting funds directly and retaining those funds on his own.
Yep.
So and that was a significant part of the agreement, that the funds that he's able to direct would not be reserved in some other entity. They would be directed to the park board. And I think this is the, I'll say this. We wanted to make a distinction between what Mr. Rui would be doing as a fundraising effort from what we have done with others in fundraising efforts. And that's why we called it a limited fundraising agreement. He's not allowed to do a public campaign. He's not allowed to do advertising. Everything he will be doing frankly, on a limited basis. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yes, and then if this does move forward to a full fundraising agreement, which is alluded to in the document, would that come before the board for approval?
Chair Thompson, Commissioner Schaefer, it would be a different agreement. It would be a wholly different agreement, and with an entity that would be qualified as a 501c3.
Okay, that's helpful. My next question is around, obviously when we look at this plan, we're engaging a variety of park staff departments, asset management to store goods, finance with the tracking of the goods, communications potentially with graphics approval, et cetera, and of course planning. So can you tell us as commissioners, what is the goal that you think as of staff that we are going to be charging back to this initiative for our staff time? Or what is the staff's thinking around how we're going to do the accounting around the investment of staff time?
Chair Thompson, Commissioner Schaefer, I will tell you, I don't have a good answer for that at this point, but I know that there are funds that have been collected through Superintendent Bangora's rent that have been directed, have already been directed back. And so, for instance, on some of the work that asset management is doing, their time is being paid through the rental funds that have been accruing for several years for Superintendent Bangora.
That's helpful. I mean, because, heading into this, we know that Minneapolis Parks Foundation charges us 15%. I really think that we should have some kind of number, even if it's a low number, to think about really compensating these various departments that, he's saying 2 years of fundraising, then maybe it's going to be 2 to 5 years of construction, and we're storing stuff in the shed for all that time. I mean, I think we got to be proactive, I think, and that's, as a commissioner, I'm interested in those details, that we iron those out ahead of time so that it doesn't put Superintendent Bangora or anyone else in an awkward position where we're soliciting private funds but using public staff time in a way that's not documented really precisely and clearly. That was some of my main two things here. I think that's probably it, and I'm sure I would have some more as this keeps going on, but I want to say thank you to Mark Rui for his investment and concern on this issue, because I think it's a needed endeavor. Thank you.
Secretary Ringgold, do you want to weigh in?
Thank you, Co-Chair Thompson and Commissioner Schaefer. I think in part your answer to the question of how would staff be reimbursed is we do administer many grant programs, we administer many capital type of funding sources, and in those pieces we have the ability to do chargebacks, which includes an overhead charge as well. So I think there's already mechanisms in place, and we would simply apply those to these funds as well.
But this would be an unusual situation, right, that we should probably determine what those chargebacks are ahead of time?
Only if they would be more than what we would be charging to any other similar type of program.
Thank you. And seeing no other lights, I would like us to vote on Resolution 2024-21. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Commissioner Thompson, I did not vote. I did.
I apologize. Forgive me.
I would like to abstain from this one. I really would like to see more detail. I really think the summary letter would have been helpful for us commissioners to have attached to this resolution so that we could, I appreciate all the written detail, but it would also be helpful for us to understand we were given no dollar amount that he has a targeted goal for, et cetera. I really think those are important details for us as commissioners to understand. So I appreciate the effort, but I feel like there is some crossed T's and dotted I's that need to happen for us to be fully informed about, hey, what is this kind of project that we're entering? Is this a $10 million project? Is this $5 million? I think that's important for us to understand. So I will abstain, but I
apologize. I didn't ask for abstentions, so that's on me. So I believe that would then be 401, but it still carries, correct? On to Resolution 2024-23. President Forney, would you I will move this, but then would you like to speak to it? It's a resolution approving a board policy regarding conferring the title of Superintendent Emeritus. Please.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, Chair Thompson. This has been a long conversation talking about emeritus status. I think that a lot of people were under the impression that there were only a few superintendents that had received this honor. Thankfully, our archivist found that that was not the issue. And so what is being put forward to you is how do we want to honor our superintendents? And I did some research at the University of Minnesota and how they deal with retiring or leaving professors. And so this is based basically upon that. And the hope is that we can nurture good, lasting relationship with those people who have served us in the capacity of being superintendent. So that is what the spirit of it is, and I certainly hope that people will support this, and because although every, what should we say, aspect of our lives possibly is political, superintendent is not a political position, but too often they have been put in that position, and so I feel that this is a way of avoiding that. So,
Thank you, President Forney. Anyone have any questions or comments? Commissioner Musich.
Thank you, Chair Thompson. I just wanted to really highlight the portion of the policy that calls upon those that we are bestowing this status upon to continue to serve as a resource for the superintendents to come after them. The ones that I've met, I know are all doing that already, but it's really nice to see in policy that we are reinforcing that sentiment that when you leave us, your knowledge is still really important to the institution, and you still have a lot to contribute. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that was really nice to see. So, thank you for pulling this together, President Forney. It's nice. Thanks,
Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, I just have one question. So it says here, under the continued relationship, so the MPRB may enter into voluntary or contractual agreement with a superintendent emeritus to provide services subject to the terms of that contract. Is that something that is just decided by our current superintendent? Is that like funding, or is it just like, hey, we'd like you to help out with this project? Like, what's that entail if we were to utilize that?
President Forney, or I see Council Rice is light on too, or Secretary Ringgold.
Deputy
Secretary. We're playing music. Okay, you're up, Secretary Ringgold.
That portion of the policy is really intended to say that you would use your same contractual processes with a superintendent emeritus as you would anything else. So if there's a money transfer, that would follow your financial management policies. It would then fall under a professional services agreement. You'd have to have all of those similar things. So in that case, if it's $175,000, then you've given the superintendent the authority to sign off on that. If it's over $175,000, it comes to the board for approval. Things that are voluntary, I think it would probably be wise to notify the board that those things are happening, but those things usually don't have a financial or contractual component to them because they are indeed voluntary.
Okay, thanks for that.
Councilor Rice, did you want to weigh in? Thank you.
If I just could quickly, but Commissioner Olson asked a good question and Secretary Ringgold gave the correct answer. My point was, this was very, the 140th year. I thought the party was great. I thought a lot of the stuff the staff did. This was a very interesting thing because, like the president, I thought, well, I knew Worth was emeritus. I knew Fisher was. I knew Mary Merrill Anderson was. But the archivist, Jennifer's person, went back and found out basically now, if you pass these next three resolutions, all that have served 5 years would be emeritus, even, Mr. Rui, who's deceased. But I do think it's a great tradition of this board that it does honor and work with its past superintendents, a lot of the history and that's been passed down. And, quite frankly, sometimes superintendents have parted under a lot of different circumstances, but in the end, they all, I think, gave great service. I don't think anyone is perfect. And, you could always look back and say, well, Superintendent Rui was controversial or this, that, or this happened there. But I think it's a great organization. I think it's a really appropriate thing to do in 140 years, looking back and thanking those people for recognizing their service, because, yeah, the job's great, but there's a lot of effort that goes into it. And I guess maybe just to Commissioner Olson's thing, I guess it would be possible if the superintendent needed to retain the services of a past superintendent. I would think at that level, any superintendent would use that authority. If it was less than $175,000, be judicious about how they did it and communicate with the board, because it's important that you'll have only one superintendent at a time. Thank you for indulging me.
Superintendent Bangura.
Thank you, Chair Thomas, for recognizing me. I just wanted to say just one comment that since I've been in this position for the 5 years, I have met with Superintendent Emeritus Fisher. I spent a full day with him in St. Louis when I was there. It was amazing history and knowledge from the person that spent 19 years, well, plus. It was incredible to hear the background and the history of this park system. It was really just amazing. I spent time with Superintendent Gerben when I came in 19, had lunch with him, and we spoke about things and learned a lot from him too, and gained a lot of valuable knowledge from him. And I spent, of course, a lot of time with Superintendent Emeritus Mary Merle. And more recently, of course, but I've known Mary for a long time, but it's always been incredibly informative. And for me personally, it's been really important to have that context and to hear things from them directly, not it written in a book, but directly from them. Also, Mark Rui, who moved back here to Minneapolis with his wife, Marisa, and they live not too far off of Harriet. They have another home in Florida. But what's amazing about that is Mark was the same age as my son when we moved into the house. He was 12 years old. And the stories from Mark Rui about his father and living in the home, which is owned by the people, it's the house. The stories that I heard from Mark, not only about his dad and some of the really great things, he talked about all the dignitaries and people that came to the house, the conversations he had. It's really just amazing. And to hear that and to hear about his father from perspective of a son and recognizing the things that his dad was going through, but also the history was really pretty amazing. And also then meeting the great-granddaughter of Theodore Worth, Dana Worth Sparks, who's not a superintendent, of course, but to talk about her father. So I only share that to say that it's really very powerful to have those kind of relationships. And this kind of, in a way, recognizes that. So I just wanted to share that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I will go to Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes, I just wanted to say I think this is a great policy to put forward, not only for camaraderie and support of our leadership, but also as opening the potential for, there may be key moments in our organization's history where we have to call on, all hands on deck, all the institutional memory that we can and all the skill sets that we can to bring forward our case. So I think this is kind of like, money in the bank in case it's needed. And I'm thrilled to hear that you're finding that support in informal ways. And that's exciting.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing no lights, I will move this for a vote. All those in favor of Resolution 2024-23, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh,
Coach
Secretary
Thompson,
Ringgold.
I don't believe anybody moved it, unless I missed it.
I moved it before President Forney spoke.
Thank you.
That's very quickly, but I speak quickly, so.
She robbed the rest of us of that opportunity.
As
is her,
I did.
As is her, role as chair. She can do that. Yes, thank you.
I did. But I should definitely ask if there were any abstentions. I think that motion carried. All right, moving on now to the list. Did we do it okay? Are we good? Okay. All right. Now we've got three specific. Commissioner Musich, would you like to take one of them now? I won't rob you of the right.
Of the privilege.
Of the privilege.
You have the right. And you're giving me the privilege.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate
All right,
that.
now that we worked out the grammar and appropriate language, let's get this show on the road. Resolution 2024-25. Resolution of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board honoring John Gerben for his service to the Minneapolis Park System and bestowing the title of Superintendent Emeritus.
Any questions or comments? Seeing no lights. All those in favor of Resolution 2024-25, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? That motion carries. Next one.
I'll move Resolution 2024-27, the resolution of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board posthumously honoring the service of Robert Rui to the Minneapolis Park and Rec System and bestowing the title of Superintendent Emeritus.
Seeing no lights, I will take that directly to a vote. All those in favor of Resolution 2024-27, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? That motion carries.
I'll move resolution 2024-28. This is a resolution of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board honoring Superintendent Jane Miller and bestowing the title Superintendent Emeritus.
Seeing no lights. Yes, Commissioner Musich, I'm glad.
Thank you, Chair Thompson. Having served my first term and part of my second term under the leadership of former Superintendent Jane Miller, I wanted to take a moment to really say a lot of the big leaps in how the business operates in terms of system change and modernization, and really trying to make sure that the way that we do work is safe for our employees. That's work that Jane helped make happen, and we're still reaping the benefits today. That's why we're not sitting in closed session dealing with workman's comp claims, because we found safer ways to do our work. So that's just one example. She did a lot of work, but she was a pleasure to work with, and I'm so glad we all got to see her and celebrate her this past weekend. That was lovely, and I hope all of us can support this resolution. Thanks.
I'll just say that it was nice to be in that moment on Friday, to see how much the organization, for someone who only knew that she was here previously, to see how everyone in the organization kind of light up was really wonderful. So glad to be a part of it. Seeing no other lights, all those in favor of Resolution 2024-28, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Abstentions? That motion carries. With that, I will adjourn at 7:25 the Administration and Finance Committee.
Ooh, we shaved 5 minutes off. Look at that. What's our average?
I know I added like 3 seconds with my